Before we begin, we want to remind you that Audible is one of the awesome supporters for the Byte That Wrestling podcast. You can get yourself a 30-day free trial plus a free audiobook just for you by going to audibletrial.com/bytethat. Audible kicks back a little something for us to cover production costs. You get a free audiobook and get to enjoy the awesome service, which I am a proud supporter and listener of. So once again, that's audibletrial.com/bytethat. Ladies and gentlemen, it happened. It almost didn't happen. Episode 210 will be a momentous occasion because we usually record the podcast, which is called the Byte That Wrestling Podcast, every single Wednesday night. And, Puerto Rico's going through some tough times. Literally, as we are talking and closing out a Patron video, the lights went out. So the patrons will get exclusive access to me panicking, and there are a couple of curse words, but we gotta talk about Roman Reigns and John Cena, everything that happened on Monday night. Unfortunately, for better or worse, we actually got some more things to talk about, including Sasha Banks, who appeared on Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast and was pretty honest about the direction or lack of direction that a lot of the superstars get. So remember, you can check us out every single Wednesday on most podcast platforms, including live on YouTube at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, usually on Wednesdays. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Joining me, of course, we got the one and only Ryan McNulty. Ryan, how did you feel last night when the thing happened?
It's the curse of Keith. All right, so last week we couldn't do a live show because of internet complications. And then this week, Juan's power goes out. Ever since Keith took a sabbatical, man, we've been cursed. We can't get everything working properly. It's just crazy. But I'm happy that we were able to do the show. Let's fingers crossed we actually make it through the whole show.
Yeah. Let's hope it doesn't burn it down.
The show must go on.
It shall. We also want to give a lovely shout out to 3 of our gold patrons, including Elmin Kurtovic, Overcooked Bacon, and Amir Warworth. Thank you guys for helping us grow each and every week. We also want to give a extra special shout out to Kyle Stephen Kelly. Ladies and gentlemen, send him your positive vibes. If this was Dragon Ball Z, we're gathering the Spirit Bomb and unleashing it on him. Remember, this is completely a community-driven show, so any love that we can give to you guys, the same way you guys give to us, we're going to be more than happy to do that. So, Ryan, let's just get to this could be the podcast episode. This entire topic right now, John Cena and Roman Reigns on Raw. So, I had mentioned last week that I wasn't a huge fan of the way that it all happened. John Cena was all like fun. He was the fun Cena, right? He was the sort of annoying Cena. And then we concluded Raw with a tag team match. Now, this week, it seems WWE just went, Let's just break down the wall. Talk about Seth Rollins' theme. They burned that thing down. And anybody that was watching wrestling for the first time, if Roman Reigns versus John Cena, if that segment was the first time you ever saw wrestling, you are probably very confused. Ryan, what happened Monday?
So clearly this contract signing between Reigns and Cena was sort of just an all-out battle of words where they pretty much just went off on each other. And the thing is, when you have a promo like this, a shoot style, I know probably most of it was scripted, but when you're in this shoot style environment, when it comes to ad-libbing, John Cena's going to win that 100 times out of 100 when he's against Roman Reigns. And that's the thing is, I was super entertained by this, and John Cena lit up Reigns verbally. I mean, there were times where Reigns just didn't even know what to say. Literally, he was so flustered he forgot his lines at times. And, for the most part, for Roman Reigns, this was actually a really good promo. It's just when you have to compare what John Cena laid down against him, it makes him look bad, where otherwise this would actually be pretty damn good. the question is, what are they trying to accomplish? Was I entertained? Yes, but in the context of a story, does breaking the fourth wall so much really make sense in the long run? Probably not. And in making Roman Reigns look like this, does it help him? Probably not. So, yes, I was entertained, but does it do more harm than good in the long run is kind of what I'm wondering.
And everybody's been sort of defending Roman Reigns on one side, and on the other side, people are saying, John Cena buried Roman Reigns. He destroyed him. Quoting directly John Cena, at one point he said, "I'm still here because you can't do your job. When it comes to this yard, you probably haven't learned it yet. There's only one rule. Step up or step aside." He brought up the match between Roman Reigns and The Undertaker at WrestleMania, talking about The Undertaker's bad hip. So the lines were not even blurred. It was basically they took the dirt sheets that people love to read every week, and they exposed it right there on live TV. Now, some people were saying, Roman Reigns, he was supposed to stay quiet. That's part of the character. He doesn't talk a lot. But then if you look up this segment on WWE's YouTube channel, they cut out that awkward silence and the fourth wall Cena reference. So that definitely was not part of it. Now, I don't know. I don't know if like John Cena and Reigns like each other like that. I don't really care because all I care about are the two characters. And I just wasn't sure what is the goal here, because I felt like just one guy was exposing the other guy, and then Roman Reigns fell really short. It seems like at the end you could tell he was trying to like be up there, trying to be a little bit more aggressive. I think it was a little too late for him.
Yeah, that's the thing is, as much as a lot of people probably agree with what Cena had to say, a lot of people definitely, Cena was pretty much airing the grievances of a lot of, the internet wrestling community or the wrestling community as a whole.
Then question, say that was the case. What is the positive outcome of that?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out myself. But at the same time, I mean, it's very hypocritical of John Cena to be saying these things, because a lot of these things that he was saying were things that people were saying about him 5-6 years ago, or even sooner than that. And, it's like John Cena, sure, one of the most dedicated guys and stayed at the top longer than anybody. But if you want to talk about putting butts in seats, I mean, sure, is John Cena a draw? Yes. But if you want to look at television ratings, from 2006 onward, it's not nothing to really be bragging about. But yeah, that's the thing is, like, now that Cena's not in the spotlight, sure, everybody's all for Cena now. I've certainly grown to like Cena and appreciate him a lot more than I used to. And I think a big reason for that is that he stepped out of the spotlight where he was getting pushed to the moon, and you could actually appreciate the positives that there are to appreciate about John Cena. But now the spotlight's on Roman Reigns, and Cena can just sit on his high horse and say all these things because he's not in that spotlight anymore. So it's kind of unfair and really hypocritical in a way. As like I said, it was entertaining. I'm not going to deny that. And he said a lot of things that a lot of people have been thinking for a long time. But yeah, I don't really know what this is supposed to lead to, other than just being a moment to get people talking. That's what WWE kind of likes now, is instead of actually threading a story, it's more just about moments. Let's get people talking, and by hook or by crook, we don't really care. It's just let's get people talking.
I think the most unfortunate thing is that I don't like this WWE, because okay, I get it, it's cool, exposed, like, oh guys, John Cena, Roman Reigns don't like each other. What happens next Monday? Like, where's the actual development aside from just saying, hey, you as a human being, you fail at doing your job? That builds absolutely nothing. And we go back, like, that whole thing was ironic, because here's John Cena saying you can't do your job. Neither of you are doing your jobs right now. Neither one of them, because everybody's talking about this. We're talking about this. But in 4 months, will that have mattered? Like, what did that build up on Roman Reigns? You basically exposed that guy. John Cena's not going to be in WWE in 5 to 10 years. I'm just saying that right now. I think that he has so much potential outside of wrestling that he's going to be highly successful at that. So if the current generation just relies on, let's just throw all the dirt sheet stuff out there, count me out. Because I am tired of having to always think about, why did they decide that on Raw? Like, I know you just saw the season finale of Game of Thrones. You got to wait like 4 years, 2 years till the new season comes out.
Probably 4 years.
Yeah. But how often when you watch Game of Thrones or any other kind of show, do you think about, I love the way that was written as it is happening? I'm not saying immediately afterwards. I'm saying as the show is happening, when you see them dragons, them people, them killings, because people die all over the place. I'm not going to spoil anything, so anybody listening, don't hit the pause button, because I don't even watch the series. How often do you think about what's happening behind the scenes as opposed to just enjoying the moment that is being portrayed on the show?
It's very rare, and that's the thing is wrestling. We're kind of always looking at it from the outside. Really, we're looking at it from this is what they're doing, this is what they're planning. So that's the thing is this promo, it's completely like a fourth wall breaking promo, but it almost doesn't even feel weird to us at this point when it really should, because when Roman Reigns says you've been burying young talents, that is really just, does that make sense in storyline? Not really, because shouldn't John Cena be trying to win all of his matches? Is that an absurd thing to do? So I mean, we know what it's about. This is very similar to what CM Punk was doing, years ago, and it's not that different. The only thing is like Cena and Punk could have a little bit more of a back and forth banter, and same with Triple H or Vince McMahon. Whereas Reigns definitely couldn't keep up in this situation.
So we'll see what happens. Ultimately, it gets people talking,
Yeah.
But
a similar thing, though, is all the great stuff that CM Punk talked about, how much really came of it? He had a lot of talk, but ultimately, there's only so much he could do. Sure, because of Punk and Bryan, a lot of smaller guys have been able to get noticed. But some of the other things, what really came of it?
That's the problem right there.
Can you really change?
That right there's the issue. It's a lot of talk, but ultimately, Roman Reigns isn't Vince McMahon. John Cena isn't Vince McMahon. CM Punk sure as hell isn't Vince McMahon. And I'm not even saying Vince McMahon in the bad sense. Like, they are literally not the owners of the company. So all of these people can say whatever they want. CM Punk never got his ice cream bar. So it just hurts the product.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because, all right, so John Cena airs the internet's grievances on Roman Reigns.
Then what?
So what do? Do we make it? Do we like acknowledge it on TV, and then guess what? The plan is still Roman Reigns, and we're just gonna piss people off more. Isn't that worse?
Oh, okay.
In a way,
you know what?
Like we're saying, hey,
the exact same thing happened with The Miz. What was The Miz and John Cena's rivalry? It was Miz saying, "Hey, you two want a spotlight on WrestleMania?" What happened? They literally got
their
the spotlight.
They got their manufactured total divas moment, and we all moved on. So that's what's gonna happen again. Is John Cena exposes Roman Reigns. We show all of his weaknesses, and then we're just gonna be like, "Yep, Roman's still the plan." So enjoy it, guys.
Really, really sad stuff. But now, let's get to talking about the roundabout, if you will. Talking about what you guys thought about Raw and SmackDown. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter, ByteThatCast. When it comes to Raw, you gave it 2 out of 4. 38% of the Byte Club. When we go to SmackDown Live, wait, really? Huh. So for both Raw and SmackDown, the polls are both 2 out of 4, both 38%. That is... It's kind of bad, actually. It was perfectly below average this week. We still have a ways off before No Mercy. Braun Strowman wasn't on Raw this week for whatever reason it was, but we know the main event match for that show, right? We got the main event match between Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks, which we'll get to in just about 4 or 5 minutes. And then on the SmackDown side, we saw a couple of things. AJ Styles came back with the the U.S. Open Championship Invitational, and I was very, very sad by that. The fact of the matter is that when Ty Dillinger came out, I was thinking to myself, yes, this is the opportunity that he needs. And he proceeds to be destroyed. How do you call yourself the perfect 10 when you can't even last 5 minutes with AJ Styles? I know I'm giving you the hard questions. I know I'm asking tough stuff.
I love it. I love it because it's so true. It's why having that as your nickname is just a terrible decision. If your nickname has to do with how you perform and then you just don't, it's going to be a joke. You know, if you're going to call yourself the perfect 10 and you're going to lose a lot of matches, that's going to make you look bad. You know what I mean? Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Texas Rattlesnake, that's smart. Whether you win or lose, that doesn't really take away from your nickname.
He's just a snake.
Yeah, he's Sneck. So Ty Dillinger is kind of screwed in that way. But yeah, Raw was definitely a better show this week. SmackDown really just didn't bring anything interesting to me, except for maybe the Fashion Files, although I thought this was on the weaker side for the Fashion Files. But yeah, certainly Raw was the stronger show. I mean, you had that promo as a highlight, and yeah, SmackDown, man, it has its ups and downs. I just feel like lately it hasn't been bringing, as much as it could be.
We're in that lull that we always say we want to try to get out of it.
The post SummerSlam lull, it's a brutal one, and it happens every single year. I mean, we had a good Survivor Series like 3 years ago, but other than that, man, this time until the Royal Rumble, it's the lowest point in wrestling every single year, and it's just the reality of it. You'll have some highlights now and again, but it's really, this is when football season starts, and WWE usually throws in the towel and does stuff. I mean, do you remember when John Cena, I think it was John Cena, was like, yeah, we're going to do this thing at halftime.
Oh,
and they
yeah,
were
yeah.
literally talking about halftime of an NFL game. How sad was that?
They just embraced the fact that they are second or third to everything else.
Yeah, which is pathetic, instead of actually, maybe trying to get a buzz going. Because guess what? Sometimes NFL games are boring. And maybe if you were doing something interesting, people might be like, hey, check out what's going on Raw, because this game sucks right now.
And to top it off, if you have 5 hours of programming 2 days in a row, you better not treat yourself as second rate, because those better be some good friggin' 5 hours, which they don't really tend to be. So getting to the secondary main topic this week, Sasha Banks failed yet again to defend the Women's Championship. Right, I got you. I got you.
Be nice today. It's a very we're starting out very angry.
I'm just throwing all the questions to you because Keith is out. So I'm like, man, I'm just gonna throw you on the spot. I'll take this one first, Ryan. So Sasha Banks, the whole thing has been that she is yet to successfully defend a main roster women's championship. So they actually main event at Raw, and it was a pretty good match, generally speaking. As a matter of fact, I love that DDT from Alexa Bliss. Like, that gave me Raven vibes. That was an even flow DDT. I even tweeted so. Plus, it's awesome how her finishing move is just a simple DDT in an era where it's usually tornado, 450, 360
corkscrew.
You know what?
DDT a couple of years ago was being abused like hell. So I'm glad that I think a lot of people have really calmed down on it. So the credibility of the DDT is coming back. I mean, Dean Ambrose's finisher is one of the most effective ones, and now Alexa Bliss. So yay to the DDT getting credibility again.
So having said that, Sasha Banks lost. And I think it was a pretty cool match for what it was. Now, the interesting part, this is a two-parter. First, let's just get to the Raw portion. Immediately after Nia Jax comes out, and it couldn't be more obvious what's going to happen, right? It's like Raw's concluding. I doubt you're just going to be celebrating. So then she does the Triple H Evolution Batista turn and just the electric chair drop.
It was just as effective. It meant just as much.
She didn't do the thumbs down. You got to do the thumbs down. That's part of it. Batista carried that thumbs down for like 3 years after that, or 4. So it seems like Nia Jax is now going to be the heel, because like given the fact that Alexa Bliss is only 5 feet of fury, I think it's super weird for Nia, who towers above her, is the good guy, and then the small one is the evilly cowardly character. I don't think that works that well. I mean, that's what wrestling has shown us.
Or it's a triple threat. You know, Sasha will get her rematch, so they somehow find a way to make it a triple threat, and that way they can both stay heel, and then Sasha Banks has to overcome both of them. That's the way I would see it going. Yeah, it's weird because they've told a little bit of a story between Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, but not enough for this to really be this shocking betrayal. You know, the fact that Nia was holding her up after she won, it seemed like it seemed like she was going to betray her inevitably because it felt a little weird that she would be that excited for her. You know what I mean? That relationship hasn't been that strong, so obviously something had to happen. But yeah, I see a triple threat route. At least that's what I'm thinking right now, because a singles feud. I mean, people might get behind Alexa, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it right now.
So I asked you about the perfect 10. Ryan, if you call yourself the boss, how do you call yourself that when you cannot defend your championship ever successfully?
I don't know. And that's the thing. We're talking about when Sasha Banks was on the Sam Roberts podcast, and I was listening to that this morning, and this is before SummerSlam, mind you, that when it was recorded, and she was talking about how it was unfortunate how she has only held the title for like 2 weeks each time, and she's never defended it and always lost it. And sure enough, she loses it again on Raw. And the thing is, you know, it's one thing if you just do it, but they had been building to this. Alexa had been making a point of it that she has never defended the title, and we're supposed to get behind Sasha, and then she just loses again. You know, it's if she's gonna lose, don't bring it up to just make her look even worse. It's like they're just like, man, we did such a good job with Bayley. Everyone hates Bayley now. Let's move on to Sasha. Let's get everyone to friggin' hate Sasha now.
And not just that, dude. It's not only like you lost the championship, but, oh, guess what? We're just going to brush you off because really we want to end it between Nia and Alexa on this episode. That's
not even she's not even the end point, like the spotlight at the end. It's like, oh my God, what are we doing right now? Is it really that much of a mystery why there aren't good baby faces anymore? Like, because this is what they do.
The heels get it right. Like, I don't think it's any coincidence that every single topic we have brought up in this episode alone, the heel makes sense. We were talking about The Miz, and now we're talking about this. They proved themselves right, even with John Cena and Roman Reigns, assuming Roman Reigns was the heel dog in this scenario, yet we just magically accept the babyface as the good one of the two. And then we wonder why things don't really, develop into something a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, the heels come off as honest, even if they sound like an asshole. But then the baby faces are playing nice, but a lot of times it's obvious that they're dancing around the truth, and the commentators will back them up on their lies. And it's just like, why am I supposed to like that person? You can go back to, I bring this up like at least twice a year, the whole Sheamus Ferrari Del Rio thing, where it's like, oh, Sheamus just borrowed the car and took a shit in it. You know what I mean? Like, and the commentators back him up on it. It's like, I know what I'm being lied to. I'm not going to like this guy. I feel like you're deceiving me. At least at least the Miz is being an asshole to my face. I'd rather deal with that guy than the one who's, trying to bullshit me.
I don't even know how to move on to the next topic in the agenda. Like, how? Oh man,
it's a very venomous episode today.
So let's talk about Emma. Come on down.
Hell of a headline there. Hell of a headline.
Honestly, I think Papa Shango cursed Emma. Like, anybody that knows Papa Shango, he unleashes them curses hard, and it seems like Emma Not only does she get destroyed, she looks like a klutz. Now they changed her theme song to like real talk. I don't think she even knew. Notice how she did the exact same entrance, but the song was in no way synchronized to what she was actually coming. Her mannerisms, her movements. I just don't get what the character is. So, okay, actually, you know what? I take it back. The character is like I started the women's revolution. I think she's becoming a parody of everything that we complained about like a year ago. And now they're doing this character. Like, that's my head scratcher.
We're still talking about the who started the women's revolution thing. Like, this was a meme because of how much it was brought up, and they're still bringing it up, which is ridiculous.
But who did start the women's revolution, though?
I don't give a shit anymore. And a lot of people were getting on Nikki Bella about, like, she mentioned that Total Divas had a hand in the women's revolution and people were crapping all over for it. The thing is, I kind of agree with her in the way that Total Divas did get a lot more eyes on the women's division, whether people want to admit it or not. And that's part of the reason that they would move forward with building women more. So yes, the wrestling came from NXT, but maybe some of the audience came from Total Divas. So she's not entirely wrong.
Yeah, I mean...
Anyway, back to Emma.
Yeah.
This is, you know the deal. She tried to get a movement started for her on the internet. What's going to happen? They're going to punish her.
Devon, get the wheelchair.
She's getting Zack Rydered before the momentum can even happen. That's exactly what's happening. So she's getting the TV time. So at the very least, this is better for her than it was before, but they're using it to bury the hell out of her. So take it for what you will.
I don't think it's any coincidence that most of our topics this week have focused on the women's division, because we see the potential. The actual in-ring stuff is really good in there, right? But then it seems like the stories are even more convoluted than ever, which at the same time, you can say, hey, women's division, congratulations. You were just as messed up as every other division in WWE. Like, you want equality. I think in wrestling, you don't want equality between men and women in WWE, because the men don't have it all that good right now. Like, if you look back at NXT, like NXT this week, holy crap, Ryan. I know you don't check it out, but watch the match between Ruby Riott and Peyton Royce. Those
two.
The
big boot.
Oh, that big boot was more vicious than
Sid. It was a hell of a big boot. So I will have to check that out.
So let's talk about some positives. So let's bring in the power of positivity in here. Jeff Hardy, Brother Nero. Something wonderful, something glorious happened, because he is now the #1 contender to the Intercontinental Championship, so he will be battling against The Miz. What's your take on this? I think it was out of left field. You know, we had this multi-man match on Raw to really determine this, and some people thought it was going to be Finn Balor, the Demon himself. Turned out to be Brother Nero. Your take on it?
The weird thing about this is, when I was watching this Battle Royal, one of the first thoughts that came to my mind was, it'd actually be pretty cool if Jeff Hardy won this. And then I was like, holy crap, Jeff Hardy actually won this. I'm pretty excited for it, because, you know, the Hardys, they had their run with the tag titles, and it was nice to have the Nostalgia Hardy Boys thing, but both of these guys are strong enough to do their own singles career. They don't have to do a breakup storyline. Sure, Matt is definitely more dependent on if he's doing the broken gimmick. So he's gonna have to figure something out with that. But Jeff, just as a singles guy, that can be really fun. So I'm really looking forward to Jeff versus Miz, because I think there's a lot they can do with that.
I think a lot of people forget that Jeff Hardy's a former WWE and former World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, just today I was checking out on YouTube, they uploaded clips of the triple threat match he had with CM Punk. I think I'm getting the matches mixed up, but basically matches with CM Punk, Triple H, and he was the big deal. Like, after a while, people just saw Jeff Hardy as the main eventer. He wasn't the Hardy Boy that got the opportunity. He wasn't the climb the ladder kid, make yourself famous.
There was one point where he was the most cheered babyface by far.
So, having said that, I think I'm totally looking forward to him maybe winning the championship, because, hey, I know we've been talking about that broken universe, and this Friday, tomorrow, I keep thinking it's Wednesday, we're going to be talking about our draft. We're going to do an updated draft, and we start from scratch. It's going to be Ryan taking over a Raw. I'm going to be taking over Smackdown Live. We got that thanks to Joe W's suggestion. A lot of those awesome questions, we make them into its own content, which you can also check out on Byte That Plus. Because we were not able to deliver the podcast in time, everybody gets Fan Friday this week. Everybody. Doesn't matter where you are. So I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully he becomes champion. Now, Papa Shango's coming back, Ryan. Because I think he also put a curse on that Corbin kid. First of all, did you...
A lot of curses going around. He might put the curse on us, not Keith.
True. I mean, hey, the electricity's out. So what do you think of... first of all, did you check out that plaque they posted on Squared Circle for Money in the Bank? Plaque. Yeah, sorry.
Nice try, though.
Excellent,
yes,
man.
they like photoshopped his hair or something.
Yeah.
It actually looked more awkward. Just everything about that plaque is a disaster because it's like, who the hell wants a plaque of Baron Corbin with the Money in the Bank when he lost it in the most pathetic fashion ever? His loss was way worse than Damian Sandow's. So, I mean, that right there sets the tone. And then they just awfully Photoshop his hair. Just total disaster.
If you guys haven't seen it, you got to find that. So talking about Corbin himself, where do you see them going with him?
I mean, it looks like he's going to be in a program with AJ Styles for the United States title. The thing is, I feel like they continue to make him look like a joke. I mean, the line that Natty said where I'm going to make you the Baron Corbin of the women's division, just like the fact that is a burn and a really good one just speaks to the state of Baron Corbin right now. I just feel like they continue to make him look like a fool.
Which, I mean, that could be part of the plan. How many times, like, look at The Miz. I think The Miz is always going to be the ultimate example of you can be made out to look like a fool. He was the host of Friday Night Smackdown, and then he main evented WrestleMania just a couple of years after, right? So anybody can be reinvented in just a couple of weeks, if not months, or in General Hall's case, 2 weeks or something like that. But I think it's just super weird what they're doing with him. Like, yeah, they're gonna put him in a program with AJ. So if you don't do a good feud, good rivalry with AJ Styles, I think you are in trouble then, because I don't think anybody can have a bad storyline with AJ Styles. That being said, I just don't
Claire
really.
Lynch.
Ryan. We don't talk about that company. We that's gone.
I know.
That company died alongside that stupid storyline. My God, what Ryan? The vibe in this podcast episode is negative enough. You got to bring in Katie Vick, bring in the corpse, Ryan. Get naked, and get with the corpse, Ryan. Just do it. If you're gonna go all out, may as well get it over with. No, too much.
No Katie Vick. No Katie Vick.
So talk to me about the master of the zigzag, Ziggler. I know you have
Thank you for that.
you have some opinions about him, because this week, talking about fourth wall breaking almost again, he basically gave a state of the WWE dress, except it wasn't labeled like that. He talked about each character exposing their weaknesses from Nakamura to everybody else. All he needed to bring up was No Way Jose at this point, and he got that over with. What do you think about this? Because I don't think you're on the same boat as many other people.
No, it's true. And by the way, I think your No Way Jose references are like the new Simon D, and you've been finding a way to bring him up like every episode.
And thanks for bringing in the Simon Dean one.
I'm on to you.
Thanks, babe.
Okay, so I'm probably the only one in the world, and I mentioned this last week, that I am buying into this Ziggler character, even though I was adamant that he should have left the company a year ago. But I want to believe, because this character actually resonates with me a lot. I mean, just go with the thing that he said. He said, all style and no substance. And that really perfectly summarizes WWE today. It's all about flash, and nothing is going below the surface. Everyone comes out with their glow in the dark or their guitar, but it's like, who are they really? What are they really about? And at least with this Dolph Ziggler thing right now, I can already feel like below the surface, okay, Ziggler is a guy who is frustrated because no matter how hard he tries, he can't seem to, rise to the top. And he's frustrated and wants to take it out on everyone else and blames everyone else. Whatever. Like, that already feels like there's more depth to that character than even Bray Wyatt right now. Because what is Bray Wyatt but, ooh, I'm a spooky guy who does a crab walk? Like, I just feel like there's nothing else to him right now. He just says the same BS and nothing changes. Or Finn Balor. Why is there a demon? What is the demon? What does it mean? What does any of this mean? Why does Elias Sampson perform in front of a crowd? Is there a reason? Does it help him win matches? I don't know. It doesn't seem to be a reason for that. So at least Ziggler calling out the emptiness of everything else that's going on and why it doesn't mean anything.
Why is that being said on the show, though?
It lets, I don't know, but you know what? If that's what's going on and he can call them out, I feel like you can work that into kayfabe better than like the Cena Reigns promo. So I don't know. Because of that, under normal circumstances, I would give this I wouldn't put my faith in it because I've seen what they've done with Dolph Ziggler. But because I feel like he's on to something, I want to see it succeed. And I know I'm being overly wishful, thinking that this will go somewhere, because I generally think things like these don't go anywhere. And the fact that he kind of delayed things a week is already kind of a red flag, because he was supposed to come out and do his deal this week and it didn't happen. They delayed it a week, and it's going to be like Fashion Files, where like he's going to be doing this promo 4 months later. But at least Fashion Files has been solidly entertaining throughout. But yeah, that's why I'm just I'm overly believing in it, because I just want to see something come from this where we get like a real character.
And I'm on the same boat with you. I strongly do think that there's something to this character just exposing everybody, but then trying to like really delve into it, or even become a parody. Like, hey, you want me to do this? Like, I'll do this, but check this out. This doesn't get me any victories. But I think I told you this last week. Like, this has been the Dolph Ziggler character for like the last 4 years. Like, the character's been, I am really good in the ring. I am the best at what I do. He's literally just saying the same thing differently, because based on his character, the end goal should be, I have really good matches. Has that not been your entire career? Like, you saying that back in, time and time and time again. So then what has that been? Like, what doesn't that make you part of the problem?
Yeah. And that's why this extra caveat that you guys are all about flashiness and whatever, and I'm going to show you why that is dumb, or why it doesn't mean anything, or why, like, I'm going to get, or he's going to parody them as like, this is how I get noticed. So this is a new angle to it if they actually follow through.
We shall see, man. We shall see. Now, in regards to the Fashion Files, as you mentioned, I do agree. As the advocate of the fashion popo here on Byte That, I think that this was the softest episode. I think that was done on purpose, though. I think they wanted to make it seem like, just letting you know, this is going to continue. And that was the purpose. And honestly, that's fine. Like, I think that any movie, any TV show has to be a roller coaster. If you're just high up above the mountains all the time, the only way you can go is down, by becoming stale. And we complain about that with everything else. So how do you really battle that? You battle it by just going soft a week. Like, be aware, hey, this is going to keep happening.
SAWFT.
Soft, which I saw the ends. Remind me, because that's not part of the agenda. Want to give a little bit of fill-in about Enzo on 205 Live. But yeah, we still don't know who attacked Fashion Police. And I love that this has been happening forever, and we still don't know. Like, the Ascension are wrestling again. Chad and Gable have completely split up. Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable are a tag team. Like, any of the options that we had speculated that could be the ones that attack Fashion Police have been discarded. I'm pretty sure they attacked themselves at this point.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a Kevin Nash texted himself situation. I mean, it is funny. It kind of annoys me that they've advertised multiple times that we're gonna find out next week and then decide to just keep drawing it out. I find the humor in them drawing it out for so long. It's just when you advertise that you're gonna reveal it and then you don't, that's where it gets a little annoying. But nevertheless, it's always entertaining. And at this point, I really think they're just going to drag it out until they're ready to debut the Authors of Pain. And it seems like they'll just keep it going until that time.
That's sadly one of the more viable options. Now, what I do,
because I think they were thinking about Rowan and Harper, but maybe that's past.
And honestly, stop doing that. Like, stop going down that well.
After all this time, the fact that it's been like multiple months now, it has to be a new tag team.
And even then, I'm just wondering, like, what's the end game? I know I'm getting ahead of myself.
and in kayfabe reason, why were they at the SmackDown arena like 3 months ago?
Ryan, we don't go that deep into the well, my friend. Now, this wasn't part of the agenda, but I just wanted to give some context. As I've mentioned, I've been watching 205 Live every week, and this week was Enzo's official debut, like on the actual 205 Live show. And it was okay. I mean, he basically had no offense. Like, he's still Enzo Amore, but it was smart. WWE knows whether they like him or hate him. Enzo is marketable. People love to watch him live. So what do you do? How do you keep people tuned in after SmackDown Live? How do you keep the live crowd from leaving? You insert him into the last segment of the show. So like the last match was a 6-man tag team match, which is something they do almost every week, aside from the solid matches. And he did the Enzo thing. You know, not a lot happened. He got the win with a cheap victory by putting his foot on the ropes. I think this episode of 205 Live was a little bit on the softer side, not just because Enzo was in it, but there was a street fight at the beginning of the show between Brian Kendrick and gentleman Jack Gallagher. Jack Gallagher got legit busted open at one point, and there was like the awkward pause of Brian Kendrick's trying to be a heel, but he can't get anywhere near him. It happened for like a full minute, and the crowd really wasn't into it. Like one of the not so great 205 Live episodes, but Enzo Amore, he's there. It is the same character, just moved on over there. Now, in the topic of women's wrestling, once again this week, you know, there's a reason, right? We got the Mae Young Classic, which we will get to as well. You broke the news on our YouTube channel, and I think you posted that on Byte
Plus. The exclusive, straight from Vince. What?
Yeah, you sit down with William Regal, and you broke the news that Asuka relinquished the championship, and you made a video about that, giving your reactions. Now, we still don't know what's really going to happen, you know, because she is legitimately injured. I guess WWE just found an opportunity. Hey, this is the best way that we don't have her lose the championship. She basically retires the women's championship in a way because she just dropped it at the end, kind of like when Trish Stratus won the championship on her way out, and then there was like a tournament, I believe it was. So maybe there's also speculation that the winner of the Mae Young Classic could become the women's champion. But sort of going back, do you think that this was the best option for WWE with Asuka, where she's still undefeated? So there's a lot of marketability there.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I think they were in a situation where there wasn't another woman who was going to be a bigger deal than Asuka that you would want to hand that victory to. Because if it wasn't going to be Ember Moon, I don't know who it was going to be. And I think they felt like, you know what, Asuka has built up such a legendary status that if we're going to bring her up to the main roster, you don't want to bring her up after just having lost her streak, because then she kind of loses that aura, that luster that she had. So really, at the expense of NXT, which in the long run, you know, it's probably worth it to not build someone in NXT to have a stronger debut for Asuka on the main roster. So when you think about it, when it goes on this long, you kind of have no other choice but to go this direction.
Yeah, for me, it's bittersweet because if you look at all the people that Asuka destroyed at NXT, it's basically the entire women's roster. Like, going back to Bayley. You know, people forget, like, it goes all the way back to Bayley losing to her, to Liv Morgan, Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, Ember Moon. Now, they're all looking solid, right? Because, like, as the matches progressed, with the exception of Liv Morgan, it seems like, you know, they almost got there. Like, Ember Moon almost got there. So now she's the top dog of NXT because, I mean, hell, she technically injured Asuka. So maybe they play into that, you know? Like, I'm so good. Like, Asuka had to leave NXT before I had a chance to beat her. And that is the angle that they should go with. The other side, you know, going up to the main roster, a lot of people, and I'll piggyback on that saying I agree, were saying that it kind of sucks how we will never get the 1-to-1 with undefeated Asuka, 500-plus day reign, versus undefeated on a pay-per-view level Charlotte. Obviously, that came to an end abruptly. It just seems like that right there was something special and something rare.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I know, I don't know if it was Meltzer who first said that. It's just the two timelines were just way too far apart. I would be like driving my head through a wall if they were keeping Charlotte's pay-per-view streak alive still, because the amount of hurdles they were doing just to keep that going was obnoxious.
I mean,
it really was.
I mean, you could even have it be intact. Like, Charlotte's not the champion right now, so I think like the problem is the
the fact is they kept giving her the title.
Yeah, that was the problem. Yeah.
It's true. They could have danced around it to keep it alive, you know, take the title off of her on a Raw and then have the rematch on Raw or something like that, and then you can put her in tag matches or whatever. They could have danced around it, but the way that they were doing it, it was just never going to last.
Regarding Asuka, I think that maybe she heads over to Smackdown. Like, I'm very conflicted with this.
I still feel like it's Raw to me, but we obviously, wrestling news, there's been no indication, and she's going to be away for at least 6 to 8 weeks, so who knows? But I have a feeling when she is fully recovered, they may delay her further, you know, to something like Survivor Series. Well, I don't even know where that lines up, but you know, they might wait till like Royal Rumble or something to actually debut her.
That would be cool. And I do think that she should get the women's title opportunity in her first match. She never lost the NXT Women's Championship. Like, here's the rare scenario where somebody should not become a number one contender. They should go, hey, you called me up. I never lost my title, so the least you can do is give me a title match. I'm undefeated. It's very rare.
They might also be putting the title back on Alexa so that Asuka has a heel to beat. So that's another thing to think about. And, you know, they didn't want it to just be like, oh, Alexa was champion for 2 weeks. Maybe they want her to, you know, have a couple months under her belt before Asuka comes in and destroys her.
That's true. That's true. So then with the other part, you know, currently the NXT Women's Championship is vacated. Asuka, technically on NXT, hasn't really revealed that she's injured and is going to relinquish the championship. That's going to be presented next week, which is weird, right? Because like nobody broke the news yet. Now we got to wait next week to find out what we've known for 2 weeks.
I mean, they knew because of the NXT taping, the news was going to get out, so they might as well report it first.
No, I get that. I'm just thinking like from a show perspective. Why, like, I love how their Facebook page was, next week, find out the future of Asuka. It's like, every single comment then there was, didn't you yourself spoil that future? Like, why is that the build-up? But whatever, right? It's a small detail, and not everybody keeps up on social media. But the Mae Young Classic. I for those that want like a bigger detail, while the lights were out yesterday, I grabbed the microphone that we got thanks to the support of our patrons, and I just walked in pure darkness across.
You walked with Elias?
I walked with Elias. I mean, hey, he could have been next to me. The lights were out. I saw literally nothing. But I did about a 30-minute review, I guess, of the Mae Young Classic in an audio-only form over on our Facebook page. So that's Byte That Cast if you guys want to check that out. You have had the chance to watch one episode, I think it was?
Yeah. I've only seen the first episode. So I can only really speak to that, but I know have you seen all 4?
Yeah, I've seen 3 episodes now. I've seen 3 episodes. So for those that don't know, they're following a more Netflix-friendly model where instead of delivering 1 episode a week, they were doing 4-episode batches every Monday. Or yeah, like this was technically posted like late Sunday. It was posted like early access almost in a way. Did you check out the UK tournament for context?
Only a teeny bit of it.
Okay, I know Keith and I were more so of like the tournament guys, so I'm just gonna give this recap. Cruiserweight Classic, I loved it. I've rewatched matches on multiple occasions, like especially Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, the matches. Akira Tozawa really grew on me. Cedric Alexander. There were a lot of people there that I enjoyed. Now go to the UK tournament. I thought that it was fairly okay up until the end. I think like the last round matches, especially that last match there, was special. And it exposed me to a lot of people that I just didn't honestly know. Let's get to the Mae Young Classic now. I am not really liking it very much. Sadly, this was recorded like a month ago, right? And you saw the reports saying that they had to re-record a lot of stuff, the commentary, everything about this show feels off, man. There have been some decent matches, but there's your Marty Bell. Dude, when they said that they changed that match or something wasn't working in that match, they were not joking, dude. That was deep. That was bad Divas era wrestling.
Which match was it?
It was the match featuring Marty Bell, who's from TNA. I mean, she was in TNA. She was part of the Dollhouse. With Mia Yim, who's also in the Cruiserweight Classic. She's also in the Mae Young tournament, and she did pretty good. The commentary team, man, talk to me about that. You've watched 1 episode. I have consumed a lot more, so I'm curious to know what you think about that first.
Yeah, so first episode right away, I'm paying attention to the commentary because I was weary of how Lita would perform, and let's just say I have more confidence in my Fight Night commentary. You can check out on our YouTube channel. I have more confidence that commentary is better than Lita's commentary, and maybe that isn't saying a whole lot. But you could tell the times when JR is trying to set Lita up for something to say, and it's just silence. It's super awkward, and it was just not good. This first episode, the first match I saw, I was like, you know what? All right, this is setting the tone. It's not bad. I actually enjoyed the first match. And then the other matches were just very unimpressive to me. And maybe the Cruiserweight Classic of the matches I saw of that were just so good that it really just nothing else is going to be able to compare to it. But yeah, these matches, I didn't find anything special after the first match. And certainly the last match in the last match in that first episode, they really chose the wrong winner. I feel like everyone was amped up and ready to see something. I feel like expectations were for a kind of squash match, and then that just didn't happen.
Like, one of the matches I want to bring up as an example, I won't spoil who won or lost if you guys haven't really checked it out. Admittedly enough, it's 4 hours. These are 1-hour episodes. So add that to like everything else, right, that you got to check out in WWE. So one of the matches is Serena Deeb. That name may sound familiar. That's because she was part of the Straight Edge Society. She was the woman that shaved her head bald as part of that. So, she was let go in WWE because she became dependent on alcohol. So she was actually very honest about that.
Which is very ironic, considering she was in the Straight Edge Society.
So very sad thing. She took on Vanessa Bourne. And that match, like at one part, you could tell they were setting up the comeback sequence for Serena. But Vanessa either forgot the setup, she forgot something. She walked around Serena for like a good 10 seconds, randomly went to the ropes and did like the weakest splash that you could tell like the entire purpose is, oh, I'm going to be down. So you do the setup and then, the rest of the match happens. The awkwardness, you could even see it in the crowd where it's like, man, like you're supposed to represent like the Cruiserweight Classic Women's Edition, right? There's another woman that gave me Ho Ho Loon vibes. And if anybody knows how I felt about Ho Ho Loon, that's not a good thing. She is the first female wrestler from India to step foot inside the ring. She was very powerful, but she looked so lost in that ring. Like whenever she wasn't doing any powerlifting moves, you could tell she was looking at the referee and looking at her opponent like, what should I do next? And I get it. It's really nice to have a mixture of people in this. I just felt like in the Cruiserweight Classic, you could hit random on the network, check out any episode, and enjoy it. Like, I can recommend some specific matches. I could just say, Ryan, just watch any episode. You're going to get a good match out of it. You know what? You're going to get at least 3 freaking good matches out of it. Here, I don't want to check out the rest. I'm not going to watch the rest of round 1. I'm going to wait till like the very end. The season finale is going to be live, much like the other tournaments. So I'm looking forward to that. So maybe, that way they step up their game a little bit. I just think it's very disappointing when you look at the NXT women's roster. They're so much better than what was shown. So it's kind of weird. Like now the rumor is, the winner of the Mae Young Classic may become the NXT Women's Champion. That hasn't been confirmed, but NXT, it feels like they should have brought in more women from NXT. It really should have, because they deserve a lot more. So, like, obviously, they didn't know Asuka would be injured. I think if they knew she was going to be injured, a lot of this tournament would have changed, and maybe they would have inserted, Billie Kay and Ember Moon maybe into this tournament. But if you guys want us to talk a little bit more about that, just send us a tweet by that cast. Truly, we don't mean to sound all negative this week. I think it's just, generally speaking, how we feel about the way things are shaping up in WWE. If you guys checked out last week's podcast, you heard me sort of saying I'm currently in the state with wrestling, primarily WWE, where I'm starting to feel indifferent, and I don't like that. I think that's a very scary feeling, because if you cheer or boo somebody, good. Emotions are being shown. When you're starting to not care about that, that's when you got to start getting concerned. I don't know how you're feeling, Ryan. So before we get to the questions, I would like to ask you, how do you feel about WWE right now? I know it's a scary topic. I know, but we're already deep in the well, man.
Let's go back to the Mae Young Classic. There was something I wanted to say about it, though, with, just my kind of final thoughts on it is, judging your vibe from the first 3 episodes, I trust your opinion about how it continues to trend afterwards. It's kind of sad when it's like, this is the best you can do when you can choose the best wrestling women in the world, and this is what you get. Maybe they should have scouted a little better on some of these women, or maybe it's just an off night or something like that. Because that's unfortunate, because you really know that there's women out there that could have put on a super quality show. So I'm kind of disappointed that it's not turning out this way, because we know that there's, in some world, this could have turned out a lot better. So it's just unfortunate. But how I'm feeling about WWE, yeah, no, it's a very similar thing of just, I feel like I'm just not feeling anything that I should, you know what I mean? It's not like, I think back to even as early as, as recently, I mean, maybe it's not recent, but Night of Champions 2012, I think it was in Boston. It was CM Punk versus John Cena. Even before the Byte That podcast, I was so invested in that main event, and I was like, it was one of the most fun matches I've ever been to live. Even more fun than any WrestleMania match that I've been to. Because WrestleMania is a little bit different now. Just the passion that people had. We're in Cena's hometown, but everybody is like cheering for CM Punk. I mean, you had the Cena fans and the CM Punk fans, and we're battling, chants going back and forth, because both crowds were so into it and wanted to see that person win. I just feel so far removed from that it's a little sad. Is that, we talked about, I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, like, who's your favorite wrestler? And it's kind of hard for us to choose. It's kind of by default AJ Styles, because he's the best all-around guy in the company right now. But it should be a no-brainer. And I don't know, that connection that I have with a wrestler isn't there right now, and that's a little saddening.
Yeah, I have to agree. For the most part, I just think that right now, the company, I think they know where they want to head off to. I think that whenever any company makes a decision to target a specific demographic, you'll lose people in the process. And I'll be perfectly honest, WWE is losing me as a fan in a way that it's never happened. Like, as somebody that I've been watching wrestling since 1995, more or less, is when I remember I saw like my first wrestling match. And I remember watching Lita versus China. It was actually one of the matches many years later that, for whatever reason, like, I remember watching that at one point, and then watching a lot of WCW. The key thing, as you mentioned there with the favorite wrestler question, is that I could always easily pinpoint who I liked. It seems like now the conversation went from who I liked to who I know I like, but. Like, there's always that but now. I like Sami Zayn, but I need to be aware this is where he's going to end up. I like this guy. I like Breezango, but let's be honest. Well, how is he going to go down this route? And it's not fun for me. Ironically enough, I love NXT right now. NXT is like almost the best it's been in over a year. So ironically enough, like, I'm not here to sound negative for the sake of being negative. Like, I love NXT right now. I love the whole tournament concept, even though I'm not a big fan of the Mae Young Classic right now. I think it's great that WWE is still trying to do something different. But ultimately speaking, it's just really crappy. Talking about women, again, also the crappy situation between Sexy Star and Rosemary. That's not part of the agenda, but I think that we at least have to kind of bringing it up. Did you see, like, the statement that Sexy Star made today or yesterday was transcribed?
I think I saw. I didn't read the full thing, but I know a lot of people were obviously not happy about it.
Yeah, for those who don't know, let's just give quick context. There was a show that was broadcasted on Twitch for AAA called Triple Mania. So that is a show based in Mexico. One of the matches featured Sexy Star, who many of you may know from Lucha Underground, and it also included Rosemary, not under the same name because of copyright issues, but Rosemary from now Global Force Wrestling. That match ended with an armbar submission hold from Sexy to Rosemary. The problem is that she legitimately applied a real armbar, like those that follow MMA or any kind of like real life holds. An armbar can snap your arm, like if you apply enough pressure to it. And you see her going back to it, and you see Rosemary's arm pop out of place. So a bunch of wrestlers, including like Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Joey Ryan, so independent, WWE, Road Dogg even tweeted like, it was basically like, let me know if this person's not good to make sure that she never works for us. So it got really serious. Sexy Star was interviewed on, I believe, a Spanish channel, so I saw the transcription of it, basically saying, I don't know what happened. She literally said, I don't know what happened. I'm going to be quiet for now. And at no point did she apologize, because whether you did it or not, her arm messed up. If I punch you in the face and I break your nose, Ryan, I may enjoy doing it or not, but the least I can do is apologize, brother, right? That is the least that I can do.
That's true, and as from what I heard, I don't know if she ever actually got a formal apology. Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's probably the safest thing for her to say is, I don't know what happened, because if she denies it, it just makes her look worse, and if she admits to it, then that just confirms that she'll be blacklisted pretty much. So that's probably just, thinking it out. This is my best approach to how do I best get out of this situation? But it's clear that everyone sees through it, and if you intentionally try to hurt someone, you see what happens in the wrestling community. These people put each other's lives in each other's hands every time they go out there. If they see somebody is trying to hurt somebody, well, nobody's ever going to want to work with her. So whether she likes it or not, she's probably likely going to be blacklisted for a long time, at least from the majority of
Good
wrestling
people.
promotions.
Yeah, good promoters will not hire her.
So, yeah, I mean, I know Cody Rhodes even said, like, he won't be in the same locker room as someone like that. So Yeah, I mean, this is something everyone takes very seriously and for good reason. So no matter what she says, it's going to be a long time before she's going to be getting consistent work.
Agree, man. So let's try to bring in the power of positivity through the questions that you guys send us every week on Twitter, ByteThatCast. You can use the hashtag AskBT. You can send us an email also to ByteThatCast@gmail.com, or you can comment on the video archive of this podcast. So, Ryan, take it away, my friend. What do we got this week?
All right, so our first question comes from Herman R, and he asks, my question is this: do you guys follow any WWE superstars on
Or personnel?
Sorry, on social media? And if so, have you ever checked out the real stuff like Snapchats, live Periscope broadcasts, and Instagram Live? Who are your favorites to follow?
I follow a lot of them. Two of my favorite ones are TJP and Nia Jax. TJP, have you seen his adorable pig cupcake?
No.
Dude.
No, I haven't.
It feels like, I don't know, I think he started the movement, like the pig revolution, because Alexa has a pig. It feels like a couple of superstars now have pigs, like tiny little cute pigs. Like he dresses them up. So it's like this contrast of you're supposed to be a heel character, but you got the freaking most adorable baby pig, man. And then Nia Jax is like up to wacky antics with Alexa Bliss, and I forget Roma. I forget his name, but it's a really cool combo there. And I know that I complain sometimes about social media, but some people do make it work right. But at the same time, like now that Nia and Alexa are no longer friends, are they going to change that on social media, or are they just going to embrace, hey, this is what's happening here and this is what's happening on the main show? But it's cool to follow them. Just keep in mind, you're not going to necessarily get the character.
Yeah, I mean, I look at like the WWE Snapchat from time to time. I mean, that's got hey, Kathy Kelly on there. Never complained to see her. And then I think I randomly have Billy Kay's Snapchat because someone on Squared Circle said, oh, like she's doing this hilarious stuff around NXT, so you should follow her on Snapchat. But other than that, like, I appreciate, watching Baron Corbin get himself into trouble on Twitter, or Kevin Owens completely shutting someone down. But other than that, I don't follow anyone too closely.
I'm looking for a picture of TJP's pig so we can get Ryan's live reaction. So keep going. Once I find that, I'll interrupt you.
All right. So thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Sam H. What is your opinion on the possibility of introducing esports into the Olympics? Also got milk. I do not have milk, but esports, I can appreciate esports for sure. I was really into Hearthstone for a long time and followed that whole scene, and I've watched some other esports, but do I think it belongs in the Olympics? No. The Olympics has always been the majority about physical activities and sports in that way. And electronics, although some things like StarCraft do take some physical, like extraordinary capabilities to be really good, I think esports is doing just fine being away from the Olympics. It doesn't need the Olympics, and the Olympics doesn't need it. It's doing just fine without it.
I'll actually disagree with that. Like the way that I see the Olympics, I don't watch them. So let's start by that. If you add esports to it, I will probably watch it. And don't forget, like the Olympics is a televised event. And the way that I see it, it's also like not just about physical sports or activities, but it is the best people doing what is currently a sport, a team thing, like a Call of Duty team. That's still a team, right? You still have to communicate between each other. You still have to practice. You still have to train. Plus, like, let's be perfectly honest, in the era where we're currently live on YouTube. So how many there are YouTubers with millions of subscribers who will tune in if they go, hey, I'm part of this esports league and I'll check this out. I saw the PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds Invitational, which happened this past weekend in Germany, and Stone Mountain 64 was in there. And that's when it really hit me, because like Stone Mountain's not an esports, he's not a pro gamer. He's more of a streamer / entertainer, but it was fascinating to see all of that happening and the reactions and the strategies. And sports need that. Like, yeah, there's not the physical activity where you move your legs, but you're working on your head, your hand-eye coordination, like all that stuff. I think it's fascinating. Plus, it removes the stigma that games usually have. And I consume lactose-free milk.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit that esports will certainly draw more people. If they're worried about Olympics, not getting views that it used to get. I mean, if you put in a League of Legends tournament over like the curling event, I think
Derek.
You're going to get more people tuning in to League of Legends. I don't know. Sorry to all the curling fans out there, but I just don't think people really are into that as much anymore.
Ryan, you ready for the cupcake reveal?
Yes.
Check this out, man. Tell me that is not the freaking cutest thing. Look at that thing. Adorable.
From what I can see,
he's wearing a skirt. He's wearing a skirt, man. Okay, let me.
There's a big glare on your phone.
Okay, I'm lowering the brightness,
kind of tough
so
to
now
see.
you should be able to see it better. Okay, kinda.
Okay, all right.
Look at that. He's wearing a purple
I'll admit
skirt.
That's pretty adorable. Okay, fair enough.
He's a heel.
I mean, social media. You pursue it, you look for it if you want to. So if you want to pull the curtain back, that's your choice. But anyway, thank you for the question. I'm good. Our next question comes from Derek W. asking, when watching a sporting/competitive event without a side to cheer for, how do you decide which side to support? Also, when watching wrestling, do you cheer for outcomes that create interesting storylines, or for the wrestler you personally enjoy more?
Well, so heavy two-parter, because when watching a sporting event, I don't really watch sports, so I'll take that one to you first.
For a sporting event, if I know nothing about either of them, I'll either go by who has the cooler uniforms, or sometimes if I know someone's a huge underdog, I'll want to see them get the upset. So that's how I'll determine it.
Okay, so I'll go with that because I really don't watch any sports, so I don't want to be a hypocrite, in answering that one. But the second one, I initially want to go with the second option, which is like the outcome that I want, very selfishly, like on a one-to-one match basis. But because I know wrestling is a weekly thing and one match should theoretically lead to like another outcome, right, or storylines or something, I'll usually pick the outcome based on that. I mean, you guys have heard the podcast for a while and know that a lot of times I'll make predictions on a pay-per-view being that selfish person, because that's my way of maintaining myself as a wrestling fan. Like, I know that this is the route that they're probably going to take, but I want to have this. But on an episode like Raw or SmackDown, I really do think about like, this is going to happen. It's probably going to be DQ because they want to do this next week. They want to carry this on. They want to stretch the storyline. They want to cause interference. I think about that more so than who I just want to win overall. And Derek writes, Juan, your lack of sporting is disappointing, sir. I'm sorry, man. I checked out UFC for a bit. Checked out NBA for a while. I don't like baseball.
Did you watch the McGregor-Mayweather fight?
Yes. And
that ended up being pretty good.
Yeah.
And see, that was a situation I wanted to see McGregor win, just because it would have been such a huge upset. But he got gassed, man.
Sadly,
got gassed.
Yeah, after that fifth round, it wasn't going well.
Yeah. So for me, I would say most of the time I like the one that creates the more interesting story, like how I wanted to see Jinder Mahal win the title back then. I didn't know that they would end up telling the most boring story ever, but at the time, I was like, Mahal's not my favorite, but it would be hilarious and would certainly be interesting to see what happens. Unfortunately, nothing interesting happened. So thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Dan K, asking, will Byte That Jeff be the special guest referee podcaster while Keith is out? Is there going to be a Colin Kaepernick-style protest and boycott of Byte That until Keith comes back? # Canadian discrimination. Will Juan and Ryan be able to carry the podcast on their own? Find out on this next exciting episode of Byte That Z. Well, so this is a pretty loaded question.
I'm lost with this one, man.
Yes. All right, let me tackle this one. So Jeff, he could appear someday, but right now I know personally that Jeff is quite busy. He's a part-timer, by the way, so he's only contracted to so many appearances.
We're
So we're
still
gonna
paying
have to
off that
renegotiate.
WrestleMania live chat
Yeah,
run.
that WrestleMania appearance, that's a big payout. So I don't know. I mean, that's up to the Byte Club to decide if they want to do a protest, but I think Juan and I will be able to handle things okay. I got to manage the questions. It's a big responsibility now.
You're a
But
big boy.
I think we've been through this before. We survived Keith's bear attack. The show made it through. So I think we'll be okay. But thank you for the question. Our next question comes from TJ Kinder from the Hot Springs of
Arizona, I'll
oh
say.
boy, Arizona. Is Arizona AR though? I don't know. Hold on. I'm not pulling a Glasgow.
Damn
okay?
it. Bite that. Officially geographically
It's
challenged.
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
As I thought.
Damn it.
As I thought. 'Cause
No,
Arizona's
so I'm
AZ
still wrong.
Yes. Okay. TJ Kinder. He says, it feels like we are getting more and more pay-per-view light events on TV, more so on SmackDown Live side. Do you think this helps or hurts the product overall? Also, do you think this is a way to bring in more casual fans who don't have the network? Love the show, TJ.
I think they expected the network to be a lot more successful than it was. Like, I don't know what the numbers are at, but they're still at around 1 million, right? Which, in the context of WWE, that is very
it's like
little.
1.5, 1.6.
Like, I think it was Dave Meltzer the other day was saying WWE's bragging about having over 800 people on social media, yet only 1 point something are subscribers on the networks. Like, that number, something's wrong.
So that number is super inflated
No,
because
of course.
you're adding up. There's so much overlap on that number.
But
It's
even then, say you had 10 million legitimate individuals that follow you on social media, only 1 point something are subscribed to the network. Like, that shows a problem. And maybe WWE.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the whole, like, think about how many people share a Netflix account or an HBO account. That's another thing. And, like, people can just come over for pay-per-views. Most people only care about the pay-per-views with the network.
Exactly.
So you have that issue with sharing as well.
But with the pay-per-view light matches, I've been a long time complainer about it. I just think that WWE is so adamant about having, if these two people are feuding, then these two people are not going to interact with the rest of the roster. Like with 205 Live, they do the complete opposite. Tag team matches everywhere because the roster is paper thin, right? But I missed back in the day when the APA, people could interact with each other. It felt like it was a legitimate backstage scene. Where now, like the fact that Titus and Neil hanging out with Akira Tozawa and Apollo Crews is a big deal is a problem. Because that should be a normal thing. If everybody's backstage, why can't we get completely different matches? Why don't we get random like cruiserweight showcase matches where two guys from 205 Live take on a tag team from Raw? That's not part of the cruiserweights. Like I think those things help preserve the pay-per-view matches for the pay-per-view, as opposed to just getting them out of the way. Because it feels like most of the matches, and I think that's a big part of why we have problems picking our favorite superstars, we've already seen most of the matches that we would like to see. Like, yeah, we haven't seen Finn Balor versus Nakamura on the main roster. Like, there are still a couple of matches, Finn Balor versus AJ Styles. You do have your dream matches with active roster. But you know for a fact that if AJ and Finn Balor were on the same brand and they could immediately do that on a Raw or something just to get a couple more views, they would. They would, because they've already done it with a bunch of other stuff. I mean, hell, last week we had Reigns and Cena, and you already got them pairing up in a tag team match. Now, it's part of a long-going storyline, but still, it seems like they like to burn that fire out immediately.
No, totally. Pay-per-views don't feel special. That's the bottom line, really. And think about it this way, like 2 years ago, you hear Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles, you're like, oh man. Now it's like Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles. I don't want to see that ever again in my life. That thing went on for, as great as those guys are, that went on forever. They had so many damn matches that I never want to see it again. I'm just so sick of it because they'll have like 5 matches before the pay-per-view, so you're not even excited for that first encounter. Like they would do this a lot back in the day of like, oh, if you if Stone Cold puts his finger on Triple H or whoever, like the match is off or whatever. So you would really anticipate that clash when they would finally, go head to head in a match. But now it just seems like they have a bunch of rematches that lead up to their pay-per-view match. That's a match you already saw. So pay-per-views don't feel special. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Pay-per-view sets are like everything just feels
Pyro's
like
gone.
it feels like an extended version of Raw or SmackDown. Nothing about it ever like, unless it's WrestleMania, it doesn't feel like really big or special. So thank you for the question. I think that's all the questions for this
Well,
week.
see, usually you say the final question, and then that's my cue. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
I thought there was another one, but I think we rounded out pretty well. We had a good variety of questions today.
Yeah, thank you everybody for the support. Once again, we don't mean to be negative for the sake of being negative. We don't want to be a podcast that just hates on WWE.
But we don't want to be dishonest either.
Yeah, I mean, we had this problem like 2014. I feel like we had a similar situation where we realized that's how we feel, and a lot of you dedicate. We are part of your lives the same way you guys are part of our lives. Like, we know the people that tweet, like, we always look forward, like, what does this person think about this? Or when we get this email, like a follow-up, like, we enjoy all that. So the least that we can do is be perfectly honest with how we feel about the product. And the fact of the matter is, right now, WWE keeps fading away from me. And I'm hoping that doesn't keep happening. But if the trend continues, like, I don't know, like, what is my future with WWE. So let's just go now with a couple of Byte That updates, because we do have something special happening next week. I think we do, Ryan.
Yeah. Yes. So BT Weekly update. We put up our recent video on the YouTube channel and on Byte That Plus of our top 5 dream matches that involve Shawn Michaels. Well, you can check that out now if you'd like to. And this weekend, we're putting up a couple of matches played out in which game is it? Is it 2K16?
No, so we did 3 different games. Keith and I, by the way. So Keith lives on the channel. He may be gone right now, but we made sure to do a couple of things with him before he rode off into the sunset. It was CM Punk versus Shawn Michaels in WWE 2K14. We did Shawn Michaels versus The Rock and Legends of WrestleMania, which is a game a lot of people don't talk about. And we also did a Gold Patron exclusive match between Shawn Michaels versus Latino Heat Eddie Guerrero in Smackdown Here Comes the Pain. So it is just us commentating over the matches, talking a little bit about the list. So we want to have like a companion piece. So these matches, we won't ever see them happen, but at least we can have a small sample of what could have been.
Yeah. Also going on, we have Fan Friday going up on the channel this week, where we did a draft. If we were to start the draft over from scratch, Juan and I, and we had our picks. I was Raw, Juan was SmackDown. We did even picks. I know Raw got more in the real draft.
Yeah.
But we kind of filled out our own rosters. We did the first 10 picks. So that'll be up for everyone on Friday. We also want to let everyone know that the Byte That podcast, we're not going to be live next week. So the live show will return after that. But due to Juan traveling and that, we are deciding to do a special episode instead. So it should still be uploaded at the usual time that you would expect. But we just won't be on YouTube live. So what we're going to do is a WWE roster evaluation. Now, I will still cover the Raw and SmackDown coverage for the week, so that will be included in the front end of the podcast. And then in the back end, it's Juan and I literally going through the current roster and just evaluating, where they're at now, where they could be, what's the deal. Basically just kind of taking a step outside and just looking at the roster as a whole and be like, who's not living up to their hype, who's trending upward, who's trending downward, where do we see them going? So that's something we've been wanting to do for a long time. So this was kind of finally the reason to take, something that was a hurdle we had to overcome and turn that into a positive by covering something we haven't had a chance to cover. So that's going to be an interesting episode, so I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, there'll still be the usual Raw and SmackDown coverage. It'll just be myself that's covering that, and then Juan and I will do the roster evaluation in the back end of the show.
Yeah, by the way,
so big heads up on that.
Yeah, and about that, we're going to be recording that probably on Monday, taking advantage of the fact that it's a holiday. So if there's anything in particular that you guys think that we should cover, a lot happens, right? Like we're going to be going basically superstar by superstar, so it's going to take a while. But if there's anything that happened about that superstar that you would like us to talk about, or at the same time, any huge event that you like, for example, This Is Your Life. I think we beat that horse to death, but let's just say like that was the one that you guys wanted us to talk about. We can just give like a quick comment. What do we think about that 4 or 5 months in after something happened? So it's going to be strictly from this point backwards. We're not going to be looking and speculating about the future, but just seeing based on what's happening right now, how do we feel about this roster? Primarily the main roster, right? So it's going to be more about Raw and SmackDown. So it's going to be happening just before Raw, so it's going to be pretty fresh off the brain. And yeah, you can check out the podcast on Wednesday still on most podcast platforms. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe to Byte That Plus on RSS, because that's where you can get the top 5 Shawn Michaels dream matches, and you can get yourself the Fan Friday, which will also be available for you guys.
Yeah, and I think that just about covers everything. So thank you, everyone. Thank you who joined us live, and thank you for everyone who tuned in on a Thursday. I know we were a little late this week, but we are expecting to be back normal time next week. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you then.